So you're the last one.
Last one.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Wheeling Village Board for September 19th, 2022. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All set, Clerk Brady?
Yep.
Attendance, please.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Papantos.
Present.
Trustee Vito.
Here.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Rufato.
Here.
President Horker.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of the board for August 15th, 2022. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Rufato. Roll call.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Rufato.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda tonight.
Clerk Brady, citizens' concerns and comments. Please read it.
Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding issues relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign a request to speak form prior to commencement of the public meeting. The first person is Jennifer Jones.
Just as a reminder, this is a time for the citizens to make comments and express their concerns and for the board to listen. Neither the board nor the staff will be answering questions. Ms. Jones, please.
Yeah.
I apologize, I'm going to bring my notes, but I will be short.
You have 5 minutes.
Thanks. Do you need to?
Start.
Okay.
Name and where you...
Thank you for hearing me out this evening. I know there are a lot of faces here that we've seen before that we've spoken with in the past. My name is Jennifer Jones. I am a resident of the Avalon Siena community, just yards away from the proposed Triumverate location. My husband is the first owner of this property. He's been there since 1997. I've been there since 2002. But my roots in Wheeling go all the way back to 1977 when I attended Kelly's camp as a little kid on the little short bus coming in from the city. I am here tonight on behalf of my family and my neighbors' families. My neighbors don't have the luxury, they have small children, and they don't have the luxury of being able to attend a community meeting on a Monday night. My neighbors have 2 small boys. They are out every night walking in the community with those little children, touching and exploring every single thing they can, just like children are supposed to do. My neighbors across the way have a young adult son who is immunocompromised, permanently disabled, and a transplant recipient. They are also out every night. He is out riding his bicycle in our cul-de-sac, but not going any further in an attempt to prevent him from exposing him to unnecessary risks. My own son is 11. We walk those community walking paths on a regular basis. We head out the front of the community, we walk east on Palatine and across to the train tracks, all the way south to Camp McDonald, right past the proposed location. Now, my intention here this evening is not to be contentious, simply to bring to light things that I'm sure you've already thought about. I just need to say them out loud because that's who I am. I first attended the hearing with the Planning Commission back at the end of July. That evening, I heard a lot from Triumverate regarding what they will do to prevent hazardous waste spills and what they'll do to protect their employees. That's fantastic. Despite being repeatedly asked how they will keep the community safe, I heard a lot about returning again and again to their procedures to keep the truck and their employees safe and following Department of Transportation regulations, neatly sidestepping the question of what they would do in case of an inadvertent hazardous materials release into the community. As I'm sure you're aware, there were concessions made, drain covers, and I don't recall if it's lights or cameras in the parking lot, in the shared parking lot. But what became clear to me was that once there's been an event, regardless of whether it's due to maliciousness, mischievousness, or simply a mistake, there is little the company can or will do to assist the community. Once it's out there, it's out there. As we all know, now I'm not a scientist, but here's what I do know. I know that during pandemic, the campfire in California brought smoke all the way to Illinois. I remember driving up 94 and watching that smoke roll in over the expressway. If there is a hazardous waste mistake in our community, whether airborne or in the water, we are all at risk. And drain covers and lights and cameras just feel like cold comfort and Band-Aids. So while I recognize that this disposal is a necessary and valuable service, I'm against its presence in Wheeling and its proximity to the Avalon Siena community specifically. When we were here last, the representatives for the company indicated that there are businesses in Wheeling who currently handle or create hazardous materials that are comparatively more risky than what they would do. And while that may be the case, and I'm not aware of them because I'm just a resident, handling or creating hazardous waste doesn't oblige us to invite more into our community. Finally, while the company indicated just one small box truck a week, it stands to reason that with little to no competition in their market, as they themselves stated, and a significant number of pharmaceutical brands as well as Northwestern University Research Hospital in close proximity, I propose that we should have no illusions about the opportunity for growth to Triumvirate's business in the area and the associated increased risk to our community. In closing, I entirely support Wheeling community development. I would love to see South Wheeling become as vibrant and alive as we have here at One Wheeling Town Center. But in this case, I respectfully suggest not this company, not this location, not this community. Please choose our safety, our families, and our homes over Triumvirate. I urge you as a voting, tax-paying professional, resident who loves Wheeling, please don't allow this permit to be granted.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Olson?
Jean and Greg Schreiber.
Got it? Yeah, got it.
That's fine.
So I live in Northeast Mount Prospect, so I am not a Wheeling resident, but I live about half a mile as the crow flies from the proposed hazardous waste facility. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that across the street from where this hazardous waste facility is being proposed, directly across the street, 200 feet, according to Google Maps, begins a residential neighborhood in Prospect Heights. 200 feet away on the other side of Wolf is a residential neighborhood. Half a mile as the crow flies is Frost Elementary School in the neighborhood that I live in. Half a mile as the crow flies going west is another neighborhood in Wheeling. I don't believe that these kinds of facilities are typically located so close to residential neighborhoods. I looked up one by one every single Triumvirate location that I could find online, and I Google mapped it, and they were all in industrial areas, not in residential areas. Now, I recognize that that the proposed location is an industrial park. However, 200 feet away, and I am not exaggerating about that, are single-family homes in Prospect Heights. There's also large apartment complexes nearby. There's probably 1,000 residents or 1,000 individual families on the other side of Wolf Road, including my family. So I would hope that before this proposal is given the green light, that the potential risks, which were outlined already, some of which were outlined already, would be vetted by subject matter experts, not just by Triumvirate, not just by people who have limited knowledge such as me. I would hope that somebody who is really knowledgeable about the potential ramifications of storing pathogenic, cytotoxic, and chemotherapeutic wastes would be involved in vetting this. We need to ensure that we're providing a safe environment for the residents of Wheeling, but also the neighborhood communities. And then one last thing that I want to mention is that kind of remember a plane going down right around there. That would be about 15 years ago. I was in the neighborhood that heard the boom. That would be really a bummer if a plane went down again on that, in that area. So thank you very much for your time.
Greg Schreiber?
Hello, everyone. How are you this evening? I was here August 10th, and I talked to y'all, and I asked if you would consider having experts come in and help vet this, specifically public health, infectious disease, microbiology, because there are areas here that we really don't know what we don't know. Since then, Sterigenics has been asked to pay out over $300 million in punitive costs to Willowbrook and to people who have sued them. And I'm sure that people who look back at that decision, when that decision was made, would love to have that decision back. That decision is very tragic. I don't know too much about it. But decisions, when they get rushed, oftentimes decisions don't get made in the proper manner that they should. But let me tell you what I did hear when I heard the company talk last time about what they're going to do. They're going to get a license for processing, I believe. I read the application, it said for processing. I don't know what it's going to take for them once they get going. But what will it take for them to actually process? I know that they've said that they're not going to process here. But at what point do they decide, I want to process? We're big enough, we can do it. There's volumes of scale. Our license, we applied for a processing license. Let's just process. What guarantee do we have as citizens that there's going to be oversight in that? Is there any? We were told that they were just going to have 2 trucks they're collecting, and that those trucks are then going to be, that stuff was going to be transferred. But the license, when I went back and read it, said for processing. That confuses me. It should be for collecting, not for processing. Next question I have is Camp Lejeune, another big mistake. The financial risk in that will be for billions of dollars, for benzene in this case. Point that I'm trying to make is that things have a way of getting out of our hands when we don't know what's going on. Let me tell you what they're going to be doing. They're going to be collecting waste from Biosafety 1 and Biosafety 2 labs, vaccine labs, in fact. They'll be taking next year's vaccine, so that the vaccines that will be exposed to vectors for next year's vaccine, those petri dishes, those animals, all that waste, will then all be collected in a Biosafety 2 protocol and then taken into a truck and placed in a parking lot.
Excuse me, sir. Could you speak into the mic?
Half a mile.
Thank you.
It'll be a half a mile from a school, from Frost School. It'll be half a mile from there. The concern that I have with this is it will no longer be in a protocol, a Biosafety 2 protocol facility. It'll be in a truck. It'll have some, video cameras, if we're lucky, as security, but that's it. During the summer, it'll get up to 110, 120 degrees. It's an incubator. It will continue incubating the vaccine dishes that we have in there. I'm speaking very plainly here, though my background is, my undergraduate is in microbiology here. These things will continue. We're supposed to sterilize them before they get to this process, but that doesn't always happen. That also became a problem for Sterigenics with their ethylene oxide when they did sterilize. So when you do sterilize, it's a problem because you're using contaminants, you're using issues like things like ethylene oxide that can contaminate people. But there's also going to be cytological waste here, radiological waste that might be coming through. We don't know because their clients will change over time and we'll never know who they are. And this will be then dumped in these trucks, and whether or not there'll be sufficient shielding
5
or
minutes,
not,
sir.
we won't know.
Finish
Is
your
that my time?
sentence. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
John Horry.
That's how you say it.
Hi, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'm kind of surprised to be speaking on this topic. It's a little bit like, who's in favor of vampires? Who's in favor of toxic waste in their house, on their street? Who wants hazardous materials close to them? I think none of us, right? So I think what this comes down to is, what kind of a town do you want Wheeling to be? What do you want your legacy and your contribution to Wheeling, what do you want to be known for? So do you want to be known for projects like the town center over here, things that bring value to the many, that uplift the community? Or do you want to be known as a person that brings hazardous waste into the community? There may already be some here, but who wants more? Who wants that additional risk? Right? This proposed hazardous waste processing plant is within a half a mile of an elementary school. A lot of people have said that. The reason is we just can't believe it. It's 2 miles from your high school. It's 2 miles from your middle school. These are the children of your constituents, and you're locating hazardous waste or considering a proposal to locate hazardous waste that close to them on a daily basis. Is that something that you feel proud of? I think there's a lot to like about Wheeling. Adding hazardous waste to it is not a thing that I support or any of your constituents. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Daryl Talkin.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. I was here last month and read, a little statement, and I'm not going to go into the whole speech again. I'm just going to kind of summarize a little bit. I want to agree with Jennifer's comment about the future growth. This business has the opportunity to grow, and their plan to grow is from 6 people to 18 plus in the next 3 to 4 years. So if you have 1 box truck now, will it turn into 2, 3, 4? Will they keep coming back for additional permits, et cetera, et cetera? I also wanted to comment on Jean's comment requiring the location for industrial locations. This is a residential. It's, like she said, it's directly across the street from Prospect Heights. It's right next to the bike path, walking path. This company, this location is just not the right location for this company. It is a good, they have a good product. What they do is good. It's just not good for Wheeling. It's not good for this location. This location right out here with all this upscale housing and apartments and by the train station is great, but the south side of Wheeling, we pay the most property taxes in Wheeling. If you go to Avalon, Siena, and look, we're in the top, if you look at the prices, we're the top 5 to 10 in the entire village of Wheeling. Why are we paying the most property tax and South Wheeling is kind of just industrial? It needs to be brought back to life. I'm also here, but invited many of our neighbors. And so everybody here who came today but just didn't want to speak, raise your hand if you're in agreement with what I'm saying. So just to keep the meeting going quicker, we just had a few people talk. So thank you, that's all.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Ellis.
Hello, Mike Leachev. So I've lived in Wheeling now for about 12 years, and I can tell you before moving to Wheeling, I had grown up in Michigan, born and raised, and I've kind of seen what things like this do to local communities. So whether you're talking about kind of what happened in Flint or what happened along the river in River Rouge where all the plants were kind of constructed, these things should not be taken lightly. And I'll tell you, it's a shame that we're even here having this conversation today. I don't think, as the other folks have said, that anybody is really in favor of this. So not sure why this was on the docket to begin with, but again, being a quarter mile away from where this will be located, not necessarily a fan. And quite honestly, and I'm sure others in the room would feel this way, but the second this thing goes through, if it does, I would put a for sale sign in front of my house. So really think through kind of the long-term implications. Again, what kind of community are you trying to build? Hopefully not one that centers around chemicals and kind of introducing that to the local community. But I can't. And I've seen kind of all of the folks come up here and talk to each and every one of you. And, I understand you may be taking notes, but there hasn't really been a ton of eye contact. So it just, again, doesn't make me feel really great about the type of leadership that's in position here, if, again, this is on the docket and to be discussed. So sorry, just had to say it, but that was really nothing else outside of anything that's already been mentioned.
Mary Mayer.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Mary Mayer, and I am a mother of one adult child and 2 children. As you are aware, we were just lucky enough to get a wonderful, beautiful park put in the Avalon Sienna subdivision that I live right across from. So I am lucky to see these beautiful faces, not just from our neighborhood, but from all over the place that have been enjoying this wonderful park that is right down the street from where this hazardous waste is going to be placed. School buses drive by this location many times a day. As everyone mentioned, Frost is right down the street. St. Alphonsus is on the other side. And it's just something that doesn't make sense in this location. We also have Camp McDonald Creek, which is a waterway. If, God forbid, there was some sort of an accident during a storm, during vandalism, where would the waste go if there was water involved? It would go into Camp McDonald Creek. It's just not something that makes sense when people live across the street. Granted, they're not Wheeling residents, but they're our community. And I just am so against this. You had me at hazardous waste. And I certainly hope when you heard that, it kind of said, what? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I know that this is something that needs to be done, but not in a residential area. Granted, it's zoned for industry, but right across the street, it's zoned for residential. And it's just something, again, doesn't make sense. And I hope you think long and hard, because I see those beautiful faces of those children every day at the park, of all ages, of all ethnicities, with their grandparents, with their moms, their dads, their babysitters, and they're enjoying this park. I don't know how much they'll be enjoying it if they're wondering what the heck's down the street. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you all for speaking, and thank you all for keeping to the time limit. That was a very nice presentation. We have staff reports. Mr. Kaup, what is up with the Northgate intersection?
Yes, President Horker, members of the board, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the final construction stages of the Northgate Parkway intersection improvements that was associated with the Uptown 500 development. As you know, this has been a very challenging construction season on top of the labor strike that occurred over the summer. There is, right now, there's a cement shortage, so they're having a difficult time sourcing concrete. All that to say, Alliance, which is the concrete contractor that the company responsible for the improvements has been using, right now, they have all the sidewalks framed, and the pour is going to happen on the 26th. It'll be a 1 or 2 day construction, and after that, all sidewalk will be complete after about the 28th of this month. Hometown Electric is finishing the electric work, pulling wire and standing up light poles today through Wednesday. After that, all of the electric work will be completed. The week of October the 3rd, Stage 2 traffic is going to progress, which means that the southbound Northgate traffic is going to be shifted to the left, to the east, to allow them to start construction of the island. After that, this will accommodate the work that will take place for the next 3 weeks. That will be completed on October the 20th. Finally, the mill and the overlay, the street reconstruction is going to take place from Dundee all the way up to the bridge. That's going to start toward the end of October, and the company anticipates pavement markings being put in early November along with a punch list. So obviously all this is tentative, but everything going as planned, the project will be complete in early November. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Kaup. Mr. Clicker, what do we have on London Crossings?
Yeah, London Crossing, as I believe everybody is aware, is the development happening on Dundee, immediately adjacent to the London School. The district building is well under construction, and they anticipate completing it. I do believe the timeframe is November. The developer has also finished all underground detention facilities out at the remainder of the site. You may have seen the large corrugated steel pipes going in under the ground. Those are all buried now. They are working on sewer and water mains for the entire subdivision. They anticipate paving with the binder course and the curbs and gutters for the roadway system to be in the middle of October, which coincides with Ryan Townhome's submittal of building permit applications, which for the first building they have submitted, and they anticipate construction mid-October.
Thank you, Mr. Clicker. Brings us to consent agenda. Clerk Brady, would you read that, please?
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A. Resolution ratifying the village manager's approval of the Tag Day permit for Wheeling Knights of Columbus Regina Council Association to conduct a Tag Day event on September 17th and 24th, 2022. 11B, resolution waiving the fidelity bond requirements for the Israel Cancer Research Fund to conduct a raffle on September 29, 2022. 11C, resolution approving an agreement for professional services with Skitch LLP for 5 years, beginning with the fiscal year 2022 audit and ending with the fiscal year 2026 audit. 11D, ordinance declaring as surplus and authorizing the disposal of personal properties owned by the Village of Wheeling. 11E, resolution approving a 1-year contract with Lavard Construction Company, Inc. for aggregate material delivery and debris hauling in the total amount not to exceed $54,200 in fiscal year 2023. 11F, resolution accepting a previous bid, Sourcewell Corporative contract with National Auto Fleet Group for the purchase of two 2023 Ford Utility Police Interceptors for the total amount of $99,519.74. 11G, resolution approving a 3-year contract with Fountain Pros LLC for fountain maintenance services not to exceed $32,800. Annual for the total cost of $98,400. 11H, resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract with Hampton, Lanzini, and Runwick, Inc. for an increase of $250,000 to $321,720 for the Buffalo Creek Stabilization Design Project. Dang. 11I, resolution approving change order number 1 to contract for Water Well Solutions, Illinois, LLC for an increase from $250,000 to $296,392 for the well number 7 rehabilitation project. 11J, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a plat of easement with Silverado in trust at 156 West Dundee Road, the landings on Dundee. 11K, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a plat of easement for Link Logistics Real Estate at 1101 Chaddock Drive, FedEx. 11L, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a plat of easement with Tasca Automotive Group, Chicago at 700 West Dundee Road, Stay Sick Chevrolet.
Thank you, Clerk Brady. Questions or comments? If there are none, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Trustee Rufato, second Trustee Vogel. Clerk Brady, roll call, please.
Trustee Lang,
Yes.
Trustee Kruger,
Yes.
Trustee Rufato,
Yes.
Trustee Vogel,
Yes.
Trustee Papantos,
Yes.
Trustee Vito,
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. New business, Clerk Brady.
13A, resolution pledging to join Cook County's United Against Hate campaign.
We have a nice item on the agenda this evening. Mr. Crotty, you want to explain what this is?
Yes, the village manager has been working, was approached by Cook County Commissioner Scott Britton, who is here tonight to explain what this is. This is a request for the village to join in this campaign. And I'm going to let Commissioner Britton come up to the podium here and present this.
Thank you, Mr. Crotty. I am Scott Britton, your Cook County Commissioner, representing most of Wheeling. Having been a trustee in Glenview for 12 years, I kind of expected to hear my voice being called for the consent agenda, and luckily I don't have to get that involved in Wheeling business. But this is, and I just want to thank the president and the trustees for bringing forth this Cook County United Against Hate resolution. One spring morning recently, I was going out to get my Sunday paper, and there was a bag of rice on my driveway. And I picked it up, and inside was incredibly hateful anti-Semitic literature. And as a Roman Catholic, I thought, this is a little strange. And then I found out that this had been delivered all over the North Shore. And I thought to myself what my Jewish brothers and sisters probably felt seeing this being placed in driveways all over our communities. And is there something we should do in response to that? So I reached out to a number of groups that are united against hate. And they told me that bringing light to shadows like this is exactly what we should be doing, and that's what the Village of Wheeling is going to do tonight with this resolution. The concept is simple. Hate against one is hate against all. We are here to stand united against hate in all its forms and to pledge ourselves against bigotry, discrimination, anti-Semitism, or any other form of hate that separates as opposed to unites us. We have put together a new beacon. It's a symbol which stands against the symbols of hate that we see too often in our society, which is included in the Cook County United Against Hate concept. We have a pledge that you can take online to dedicate ourselves to rejecting hate in all its odious forms. And we have a growing library of anti-hate resources, which is going to help residents understand the impacts of discrimination and bigotry and to learn safely and proactively interrupting injustice and intolerance. This is included in our website, which is www.cookcountyunitedagainst.hate.com. And, you know, having been a school board member, a trustee, and now a Cook County Commissioner, I understand that our job is to legislate, but our job is also to educate. Maybe that's because I'm the son of a school superintendent. And I also think that this is a perfect opportunity for us to show our communities that we are united in trying to do everything that is right and everything that is good to reject this type of hate in our communities. Wheeling is the first of my 19 municipalities that is going to adopt this resolution, assuming it passes, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. And I do appreciate very much the commitment of the President and the Board of Trustees to this very important initiative, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. It initially seemed odd to me that we would need something like this in a community that is as diverse as we are. But statements do need to be made, even where it seems to already, where the essence of this statement is already being borne out by the community. I think it's a very simple thing to do, and I think it's a very wonderful statement. I look forward to this being passed. Do we have any comments or questions from the board?
No.
If there are none, I would need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Lang, second. Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang,
Yes.
Trustee Kruger,
Yes.
Trustee Rufato,
Yes.
Trustee Vogel,
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Vito,
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes, Mr. Britton, thank you so much for bringing this to everyone, and thank you for being a commissioner. Thank you.
13B, ordinance granting special use approval to permit the processing of hazardous waste, 1678 to 1680 South Wolf Road, Triumverate.
Environmental, Inc.
Thank you. Docket number 2022-30.
Mr. Clicker.
Yes, as you just heard, the petitioner, Triumverate Environmental, seeks a special use to permit the processing/transfer of hazardous waste in the I-1 Light Industrial Zoning District. At the August 10th Plan Commission hearing, the Commission recommended denial of this request with 3 commissioners in favor and 4 opposed. There were conditions placed on the request should it be approved, and those conditions were that 1, there shall be no parking of semi-trucks or trailers associated with Triumvirate Environmental, Inc. at the subject site except for the loading of and/or transfer of material from the box trucks to the semi-trailer. 2, no materials of any kind, including hazardous waste, shall be disposed and/or recycled at the subject site, excluding standard office waste. 3, storm drains shall be covered during the transfer of materials from the box truck to the semi-truck. And 4, cameras shall be installed behind the building viewing the box trucks. However, as I did state, the vote was 3 in favor, 4 against, so it is a recommendation of denial from the Plan Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Clicker. Trustee Lang and then Trustee Kruger.
Thank you. Petitioners.
Oh, I'm sorry. Their turn.
Yeah.
Triumvirate, please. Well, you have questions. They'll have to answer.
After they present.
Okay.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Andrew Scott with the Law Offices of Dyke Magasset, here on behalf of the applicant, Triumvirate Environmental. We appreciate the concerns that are raised by the members of the community. Really, we've brought our team here to answer any questions that may have arisen during, I believe that members of the board have viewed the Plan Commission hearing. I think we put forth a robust case to explain how Triumvirate provides a great service to our institutions in the area, others that are conducting research and other types of activities that sort of make everybody's lives better. And these materials are sort of in and around communities, and Triumvirate, in their 35 years of experience, has developed a great track record. One of the things that people have been asking about is, what happens if there's a spill? And all we can say at this point is that after hundreds of millions of road miles and after more than 30 years of operations, there has not been an incident of any kind of spill with this company. They operate a very, very safe operation. They operate in compliance with all Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Transportation standards. And again, they do not anticipate or expect that there will be any kind of issues related to their operations at this location. Something was made about we're going to process hazardous waste, and really the processing, sort of it's in the eyes of the beholder, but really the processing that goes on here is taking enclosed materials, and in some cases, double pack materials, transferring them from box trucks that have gone out to customers in the surrounding area, and then loading those on the inside of the building onto tractor-trailer trucks, which will immediately move from the property. The tractor-trailers won't be sitting on site. And so that is the extent of the processing that would be going on within the facility. Some people may question why it's such a large space, but at the same time, another service that Triumverate does provide is that there's a lot of training that goes in to what they're doing, and also they've got storage of equipment and other materials that they use in furtherance of their operations. So we're available to answer any questions. We certainly appreciate everybody's consideration.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off before. Trustee Lang now, then Trustee Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. A couple questions you brought up, which are interesting. Where's some of this waste already being generated from, and where is it coming from, other communities and so on, and what sort of waste is it? Doctors' offices that are nearby residents and so on as well. Is there something to that effect?
Sure, absolutely. I think it would be better if I brought up Ian Lanza, if that's okay, with Triumvirate Environmental, and I think he'll be able to fully answer the question.
And just to be curious of where some of this is coming from.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes, it's coming from doctors' offices, research institutions, and biopharma in the greater surrounding areas.
Okay, so it's surrounding communities, Northbrook, Buffalo Grove, Prospect Heights, Mount Prospect, so on.
Yeah, so our dispatch area from here is about 60 miles, call it.
Okay. All right. It sounds like, are there other businesses like this that do the services you do? Right now, there is waste being produced. What's happening with it?
Yep. Yes, there are many others. There's another one in Wheeling. There's a very large processing facility on the North Shore. We also provide lots of what we call consulting and on-site operations, which is where the majority of the people that would work out of this office, they would actually be on our customer sites, providing environmental health and safety consulting on the proper management of these materials. And then as we grab the material, all we're doing is transferring it and then bringing it to treatment facilities in Canada, Ohio, and Indiana. But yes, there are several other companies around. We have a very specific value proposition that is, again, more leaning towards consulting. We also operate the only facility, to my knowledge, in the world near Pittsburgh, where we treat the biomedical waste and then we recover the treated plastic and then use that in a plastic manufacturing business. So basically, we're recouping that waste, turning it into something else. And a lot of progressive companies like that service because we're able to move a waste stream from a landfill into a recyclable commodity. And so that's a big driver of kind of our business here, is people looking for that type of outlet.
Thank you. My next comment probably would be for Mr. Scott again. So obviously you have quite a few people that are upset with unknowns here, and I would admit that we have some unknowns on our board as well of what the future would be for this type of business. So in that case, have you explored other locations, because there are a lot of them that are probably less near schools, near residents, near so on. Is this a location that you are dead set on, or are there other locations that you've explored or will explore?
The petitioner did explore other locations. This is the one that provides them with the best opportunity to serve the customer base sort of in the surrounding area.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger, then Trustee Papantos.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is actually for staff, so you can take a load off for a second. I'm going to ask the professionals that are knowledgeable on, in my eyes, all things safety. You are the people that we rely on to bring us all the information of fully vetted petitioners when they come to town. So I'm going to start with Director Clicker. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you believe that this petitioner is a safe neighbor to?
In researching and working with the petitioner and providing information to our questions and also our additional research, we have found them to be a very safe operator. We researched their nationwide, their history with the Environmental Protection Agency and the OSHA, and we found actually very few insignificant issues with both agencies, and not in the recent past. These are going back several years, and the EPA concerns that we found were in Florida, and it was in regards to mishandling of paperwork, not the mishandling of materials. And then there was an OSHA concern where, unfortunately, an employee, I believe it was in New Jersey, lost an eyeball to an incident that happened in their facility. And that was the only incidents that we could find nationally regarding this company.
Thank you. Chief McGreal, the fire department, certainly you're our first line of defense if there's ever a hazardous situation in town. We do have an airport in this town. I imagine there's hazardous materials that you have to deal with. Triumverate is not here yet. I'm going to look to you as a hazardous waste expert and tell me what you believe Triumverate will
Well, I don't think anybody has more skin in the game than first responders with situations like this. And after doing the research with community development and talking to the company, we don't have any significant issues with the proposed use.
I understand that they're working with you on potential training and can help us in the event that there is a different hazardous
That was
situation.
brought up in the initial stages of this, but that's not why that's not why I'm coming up with there's no issues. If that happens, that'd be great. It may be another resource, but that's still to be seen. Similar to some of the other hazardous waste processing plants in Wheeling, we do use them as resources.
Thank you. And Chief Dunn, Police Department, there's been some mention by certainly very passionate people that feel that vandalism could be an issue, somebody getting into those box trucks. Do you feel that there is a risk and a safety issue here?
Well, generally in law enforcement throughout the nation, we're very, always looking at the adverse effects of anybody taking products and using them in a negligent or threatening manner. And there's really been no instances where biohazards and that type of where they're recycling them or collecting them, where there's been an issue that we'd be concerned about. Hence, with this plan, that's why you don't see 8-foot fencing, barbed wire, things like that. It just generally has not been an issue. And there are other areas and other communities that have businesses like this, and they have not been targeted at all. And open source research, the internet, and then contacting other police departments in the area, there's been no negative experience.
Well, I want to thank staff for all the extra efforts that they put into this pretty hot topic. And so I appreciate your answers. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos, then Trustee Vito.
Thank you. Director Clicker, sorry to put you on the spot once again. I think the buzzword here is processing.
Yes.
And in effect, from what I'm hearing from the petitioner, you're not doing any processing, not on site. You are taking a sealed container and moving it to another truck.
That is correct. It comes onto the box truck from a customer's location. It's in a sealed container. It is, the box truck will back up to the loading dock in the building. It will be offloaded. It'll never be outside. It'll be offloaded inside onto the next loading dock, which is just to the north, and that's where the tractor trailer will be. So it is fully enclosed materials at all time.
Thank you. And we don't have anything in our code.
That by definition is a process. So we could place conditions on it if the board so feels that we could make it that the processing is limited to the transferring of materials from a box truck to a semi-trailer, and that no sorting or grading or dismantling of product could happen on the site. But by definition, moving it from one vehicle to another is a process. So
I, for one, would like the condition at least to clarify what the term process is, because you're not going to do it. How many box trucks does it take to fill the semi?
Three or four.
So you'll have 3 or 4 box trucks on site, theoretically filled with.
No, ma'am. The trailer will be coming en route, and it will be stopping at this facility to just empty up to 2 box trucks.
Oh, okay, and then it goes to the next.
Yeah, we asked for 2, so we will not be filling the trailer. It's in transit. This allows us to provide services to those smaller customers like clinics and hospitals where you can't fill a trailer. So it's just a stop on a route.
Okay, and somebody mentioned briefly radioactive, and I know during the Plan Commission and I know the laws on radioactive material.
Explosives and radioactive material, we do not handle that. That wasn't part of the application.
And you will not go for that license because that's an entirely different waste license?
Yep. Different on it, yep.
Liquid waste, are you solidifying it on client's site, or are you just transferring to a 55-gallon drum?
Yeah, so on the client side, it is containerized into a drum, and it's ensured that it's closed, and then that's put on our truck, and then that would be transferred to the trailer. So no solidification is occurring.
Okay. And I heard people discussing pathogens. There is a difference between airborne pathogens and bloodborne pathogens, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, yes.
A major difference that, something opens up. I think you're probably more at risk if somebody cuts themselves during the transfer process, but that's not occurring here.
Correct.
And I've also heard people mention the word license. This is not a license. This is whether or not this special use will be permitted, correct?
correct. They do need to have an Illinois Environmental Protection Agency permit, which I believe they have either already received or are in the process of receiving. And they also must get a Department of Transportation permit to transfer this material on the trucks.
But we do not have any
We do not have any
control over
additional
that.
licensing. Ours is the special use application, whether or not it meets.
And where in Indiana is the handling, I don't know, processing, just rough estimate?
Before, just to clarify on the question about the license, we have to secure a business license from the village. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because Mr. Clicker had said no other licensing is involved by the village, just to clarify that. So.
All businesses need, right.
One of the primary facilities is in Grafton, Ohio, I believe. I don't remember the town in Indiana. I haven't personally been there.
Okay, and if once you have this material on your pallet and somebody who's about to do a transfer notices some damage, I don't know how, but if something was damaged, do you have procedures in line as to what would happen where the material would be transferred safely to take care of that?
Yeah, so before would be put onto the truck, all the units would be inspected to ensure they're not leaking or compromised. And then at this facility, one of the things we are going to use the warehousing for is personal protective equipment and spill response equipment. And it's really designed for our customers. So when our customers have a spill on site, we can take that equipment and go there. But it will also allow us, if there were an issue like that, we would be able to containerize it on the back of the truck immediately.
So you would do it on the truck, you wouldn't take it off the truck?
Yeah, if we found it on the truck, we would just do it right there on the truck. Overpack it, yep.
Sorry, I know you had a lot of questions, and some of them came from me, and that's why I just wanted to. How long have you been in operation?
The company's been in operation for over 30 years.
Okay. And do you expect at any time in the future to grow your company? There's multiple suites at that particular building. Would you expect to grow into other suites by chance?
I don't believe we would, given the limitations of the facility. We couldn't do any processing beyond what you had described. This is our only intention, is to use it this way, so I don't believe so.
I would also clarify that if there were to be additional space leased within the building, the village attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe Mr. Clicker, but we would have to come back before this board if we wanted to expand beyond the proposed location of the facility.
Because that's correct. The ordinance clearly delineates the special use to the facility or the location that's been requested.
Thank you. And you don't plan to do any sterilization at all? Sorry.
No sterilization or treatment.
Okay. Does that occur at the site occasionally, or no?
It would occur either at the customer site
That's right.
and or at the end treatment facility.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vito, then Trustee Rufato.
I'm just wondering, we heard a lot of kind of doomsday stuff. What is the doomsday scenario? Say something crazy happens, this trailer pulls out on the Wolf Road, another truck comes, smashes it, all of your product is now smashed on the street. What is the reaction? I mean, is it a horror movie? What would happen is what I'm trying to understand.
My name is Richard Barry, Vice President of Compliance for Triumverate. How are you? To answer your question, it's never happened before, but we're prepared for it whenever it might happen. So if in your scenario that a crash would occur on the road, we would immediately cordon off the whole area. We'd call the fire department, and we would address the hazards of the material on the truck. We would know what materials are on the truck, and we would address the response, disinfection, cleanup, spill collection, absorption, and we would handle it all right till the very end, till there's no environmental impact.
But I want to know, what is the worst case scenario? What would happen? Say you don't do that. I mean, what happens? Does everybody die? I don't understand what happens.
So when we talk about so we're handling ignitable or flammable liquids that are less flammable than gasoline. So there would be, if the worst case scenario happened, we'd have a fire, and we'd have these materials confined in that crash location, and we'd have to address that and clean it up. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding what it's hard to know.
If I opened up a box of whatever you're having and I just sat there and sniffed it and dug my hand, what would happen to me is what I want to know. Just what would happen if I came into contact with whatever it is you guys are processing or transferring?
Right. It could be exposure, just like it'd be exposed to gasoline or some other chemical. And in the case of the infectious waste, I mean, if you put your hands in it and you picked it up and you got it all over you, then you'd run the risk of becoming infected. You need to be treated.
What's the problem? How much of this product are we talking about, say, on one semi-trailer? Because what is in a doomsday scenario, could it get to a school, or could it get 200 feet away, or do you have to actually be on top of this, in contact with it, is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, there's not going to be an explosion. There's not going to be any airborne emissions that are going to travel miles down the road. This is going to be an incident isolated to that area and addressed in that area. I don't see any scenario for the materials we're handling under which we're going to have an escalation of an event that would reach more than a few hundred feet away from the scene. I can't imagine that.
Okay.
Oh, that was, okay. I didn't know if that was, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Rufato?
Thank you. Mr. Clicker, so once, if we issue a business license for them, do we as a village have any jurisdiction as what's happening in that business?
We would, as part of the business license, we would review their processes. They're going to have to provide documentation that they have their IEPA permit, that they have their DOT certifications. If we do not see evidence of that on a business license, which we do annual inspections through our fire department, and community development also does some inspections. If we see anything that arises concern to us, we can suspend or revoke that business license.
So we do have some oversight into this business?
Correct. If we were to, in fact, receive a report from the IEPA that this facility was operating outside the guidelines of their approvals with IEPA, we could immediately suspend and revoke their business license.
Okay. Then,
Can I add to that answer too, as well?
Sure.
Regarding the special use, if this ordinance is approved, if this petitioner violates any of the conditions of the special use or operates outside of what's being allowed. And what's being allowed by the special use is the transportation of this material, not the processing, just the transportation. So if you look at the ordinance that's in the packet, Section C says the special use must be operated in conformance with the project description letter, which is attached, very, very detailed about what they do. None of it is processing chemicals, as well as the transfer and parking location exhibit. If we deem that any aspect of the special use has been violated, we would conduct a hearing to either suspend or revoke the special use. If that were to happen, business has to be shut down. So there's the business license, which is one area of oversight. The special use permit is another. That's in the zoning aspect. So there is another ability to govern what they're doing.
thank you. It's been mentioned, some of the residents mentioned it, and the petitioner mentioned it, that there are other hazardous waste companies in the village. What are they, and where are they?
There's.
And what is their purpose, and what is their process? Is it similar to this?
I don't know if many are similar with the medical waste. SET Environmental is one. On Sumac, you have waste management, and there's no telling, what can be in those facilities at any one time. Again, Wheeling has a very large industrial base. So we deal with hazardous materials on a daily basis. Not that we have incidents, but there are a lot of things that we train for and we're concerned about. So again, as far as medical waste, I'm not familiar with another facility.
Similar to this?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then a resident brought up, and somebody mentioned that we don't make eye contact, but we are listening and we are taking notes, so I didn't appreciate that. But a resident mentioned about expanding the processing. Can they do that within this license again?
As Attorney Furlow just stated no.
Okay. I just want that clarification.
They're limited in accordance with their project description, which is very clearly only a transportation facility. Packaging and not even packaging, transporting these products to processing facilities that are out of state. If they were to go beyond that or want to go beyond that, they'd have to come to this board and seek an amendment to their special use. They'd have to go through a public hearing before the Plan Commission and ultimately come back before this board. And if it's discovered, again, that they do expand beyond what's allowed in this ordinance, we would, and we were notified about it, we'd issue a citation, we'd conduct a hearing relative to the either revocation or suspension of the special use.
All right. Thank you. You mentioned, the petitioner mentioned that there's training available. What is the training, and does it involve any of the materials that are being handled?
We provide very technical regulatory training on the safe operation, transport of hazmat. Generally, we provide it to our customers, and we have partnered with other local fire departments in other cities.
Okay, so, and your customers are medical offices? Give us an array of your customers.
Yep, hospitals, research institutions, vaccine manufacturers.
Okay. And do you have other facilities within the Chicago area? Or is this your first?
No, sir, no.
Okay, all right. Then, my last, and I know you've said we've had no incident of spillage, and Trustee Vito was trying to get to that, and I still don't feel comfortable with the answer, because it's, you know, it seems to me that you have to have these processes. It's like, you know, any type of accident. Somebody's saying that, well, I've never been in an accident. You know, eventually it's going to happen. What is, are there detailed processes that can be reviewed? Is it something we need to review for this? You know, that there are concerns by the residents, and I don't think they're being satisfied. And in addition, in the Plan Commission meeting, at the very end, in the public hearing, you expanded that there's also viruses and other pathogens, and that wasn't mentioned in any of the materials until it came out there. So I just have a concern overall that we're missing something here, and it seems too easy of a process that I don't quite understand, and why it has to be so close to this area when the chief said we've got a huge industrial base, and it just seems that this area, without that expanded knowledge, just doesn't make me feel comfortable.
So I think a couple points on that. I think just in terms of, you know, focusing on the processing, because I think that the dangerous stuff that you're talking about, that goes on at other locations that's not going to be done at this particular facility. So that's the first part of it. And I think the second part of it is they have very specific protocols in place in terms of how material is moved from the customer's location onto the trucks, from the trucks onto the semis, and then off onto the open road. One of the things that I learned during the course of all this, because I was sort of wondering, okay, how does, you know, what is, not so much the doomsday scenario, but how do we know this is safe sort of once it leaves the facility? And one of the things that I learned is that one of the obligations of the driver is to stop within a specific period of time or number of miles to check their load to make sure that it remains still well secured within the truck. And so, again, top to bottom, in terms of ensuring that it is a safe operation, not only at the facility as itself, but as it moves across the open road, they have operated for more than 30 years in compliance with these requirements. They set the standard in the industry in terms of best practices for moving hazardous waste, and I think it's evidenced by the absence of any spills or accidents or any of the areas or situations that you're concerned about. And that's I guess how I'd respond to the issues you raised.
I think one last question. In the Plan Commission meeting, there was talk about more security fencing and cameras, and I think it was mentioned that you weren't sure whether the landlord would allow that because of access to the other tenants. Have you investigated that any further?
We did. We spoke with the landlord. It is not his desire to have fencing up around the property because of the inconvenience that it would cause to the other tenants. I mean, it's important to us, obviously, to be, you know, not only a good neighbor to the village and to the community, but also to the other tenants and not making the operation of their business more difficult. And so there was a lot of pushback that we got from the landlord in terms of putting fencing up. I mean, something else that I would mention is, as you know, thinking about the idea of fencing, you start thinking about an attractive nuisance. So if you start putting fencing up or, enclosing it, however we're talking about, then, does that create or cause more of a red flag to somebody who is going to make mischief? And so we think that between the security protocols on the trucks themselves, between the locks, the inability to access the rear of the trucks, I mean, how they would get in, it's not a connection between the cab and the rear of the truck. So it's not like there's a passageway between the two. So somebody would literally have to break open the truck in order to access it. That combined with the absence of any break-ins that they've experienced at any of their 13 facilities, we just thought that we're fine doing cameras in the rear. That can be a great deterrent. We were talking before about maybe a sign that says, premises under surveillance, something, as a deterrent that way. But going back to the fencing, we got strong pushback from the landlord, and just practically speaking, we're not sure that it adds that much additional security to what is already a safe situation as far as their 30 years of experience.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President Horkert.
Thank you, Trustee Rufato. Trustee Kruger, and then Trustee Vogel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just have a quick follow-up question. Director Clicker, you mentioned that these guys would be inspected by the village annually?
Yes.
And then could a petitioner tell me how often are you inspected by the EPA, the IEPA, and the Department of Transportation?
Thank you. We're inspected at least annually by those agencies.
If not more?
If not more. In some states, in New York State, we're inspected much more frequently. In Massachusetts, a little less frequent. So it depends on the state agency and the local agency.
Do they ever spot check? Like, surprise, I'm going to ride along with one of your guys today.
They only surprise, excuse me for interrupting.
Only surprise, okay.
Yeah, we never get
no warnings
notice that they're coming out.
Great, thank you. That's all I had, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Vogel.
Yeah, I'm still uneasy about your procedures if there is an accident. Chief McGrill, in the past, in our history, have we ever had any type of a spill or an accident that required us to go out and close down roads and shut down residential areas? And what type of, if we did, what type of accidents, or what was the cause?
Well, I don't have the institutional knowledge. I've only been here a couple of years, but I've been talking to my hazardous materials teams when we were looking at this. We've had some spills in the industrial areas. We have had transportation spills, mostly petroleum products, some semi-trucks that are carrying hazardous materials. And what we do is we have a pretty robust hazardous materials response team that's division-wide, and most of our personnel are hazmat techs, similar to the personnel at Triumverate. So we have not, to my knowledge, evacuated neighborhoods.
Have not had to?
No.
The other question was, you mentioned a couple hundred feet. Is that couple hundred? I mean, they're talking the school being 200 feet away. Is this couple hundred, 200, 300, 400? What is it?
I was the one who said that, and I looked that up on Google Maps, and I drew a line from the office to the home across the street, and it said 200 feet. So it was the Google Maps as the crow flies. I did the same thing on Google Maps from...
Okay, ma'am, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. If it's 200 feet, and your answer is it could affect areas a couple hundred feet from there, what is a couple hundred feet in your definition? Ma'am, I'm asking this gentleman here. Sorry. Is it 200? Is it 300? Is it 400 feet?
I'm estimating. The gentleman asked me what the worst-case scenario was, and I said I couldn't tell. I just couldn't tell. So a couple hundred feet to me, a couple of truck lengths, right? A couple of truck lengths away on the worst-case scenario.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Please come back up. I get to play too. Tell me about the containers inside the trucks. What is a Tell me about the specs for a drum carrying a liquid hazardous material. What's it made of?
So all containers that are used for hazardous material transportation have to be rated to a certain, what's called a performance-oriented packaging standard. So these are DOT and international standards on packaging in containers. And we only use the proper packaging for the materials that are in them.
So if you're transporting your lye, your sodium hydroxide, what's that packed in? What is that container rated for? Can you drop it? Can you burn it?
Yep, all the containers would be drop tested before we could use them. We don't drop test them. The manufacturer we buy them from do. And they'd be rated for corrosivity.
Impact from a car. The vehicle, one of your vehicles is struck by another vehicle.
Yep.
Will these containers, are they rated to absorb an impact? What's the construction like? Single wall, double wall?
These containers aren't rated for being struck by automobiles. They're rated for incident damage that might happen in the transportation or handling of the container, bumping around in the back of the truck.
Dropped off a forklift?
Dropped off a forklift, falling off a loading dock.
How do you wrap salts? How do you prepare, it's just your list of chemicals here. How do you prepare dry granulars for safe transportation?
You put them in a cardboard box, again, rated for the material, in a cardboard box, plastic wrap it on a pallet.
The sharps, basically, like we do sharps collection here. How do you pack those? How do you treat those?
They're in plastic containers that we manufacture to the government specs. We have an FDA license to do that.
Those types of containers, would those be the same type that you see in a doctor's office?
Yeah, in part, there's some larger ones that you might not see in a doctor's office, not hanging off the wall, but larger containers where they pour the materials into.
So they're double packed. Basically, there's the package that the doctor collects them in, then there's the package that they're packed in for storage.
Yes.
Or for shipping.
Yes, we do have sharps containers, again, that we manufacture, that are made out of plastic, that are called single-wall containers. So they ship on their own. They stand up on their own, and they're supported on their own. They're covered and secured.
Thank you. Trustee Rufato.
This was a public hearing, Ross, correct? Did we hear anything from, besides the residents, did we hear anything from the tenants of this building that are there?
No.
Or anybody around that?
No. As far as I know, and I don't know exactly where everyone here lives, but I don't believe anybody who actually got a physical mailed notice from us came to the hearing.
Okay, all right. Then to that point, if by chance this company decides to sell off this division or something and another company comes in, what would be the process for another company? Would they have to go through the special use process again? Do we know?
The special use typically runs with the land and the area. We could include a condition that the special use is limited to this particular user. That can be added.
I would like to see that.
Trustee?
That was it, thank you.
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. On the box trucks, what type of placarding are the trucks labeled with?
The placards that would be required. So if it hits a minimum threshold, then the placards would fly. And we would have DOT classes except for radioactive and explosive. So you wouldn't see those. But you could see toxic, flammable, corrosive.
So do you just automatically label with all of those, or do you place the placards at point of collection?
Yep, there's very, very specific DOT requirements on how to placard a vehicle based on how much material is put onto the truck at which sites. So we would follow those rules and fly the placards as required.
So if a truck is sitting in your parking lot and somebody thinks it would be, for some reason, fun to break into it, they're going to know that they're breaking into something that has potentially hazardous waste.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. No other questions or comments?
I got one.
Trustee Vito?
So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to get behind this unless I'm comfortable in understanding, and I know I said this already. What is the worst possible scenario? You said someone might want to do mischief. Say I want to do mischief. I want to kill everyone in town. I mean, what can I do with this? Because if the worst possible scenario happens at some point, and I didn't have an understanding of this and I voted for this, I'm never going to sleep well again. So if you guys can't explain that to me in a manner where I feel comfortable that I understand what that is, I'm not going to be able to get behind you.
So when we look at the risk assessment, at the facility, it would be a leaking drum of a flammable material or a corrosive material. It would stay contained within the truck, and then we would clean it up. I think the auto accident is probably the worst case scenario I can come up with. The containers, each individual container is no greater than 55 gallons. So we could have 55 gallons of a flammable material or a corrosive material. When Rich is saying several hundred feet, it's because they're not very toxic or large volumes that are going to get up into the atmosphere and blow away. Excuse me. There's flammable material. There could be a fire at the impact if there were a spark. And again, I think what Rich is saying, it would be contained within that general area. This isn't a Beaupas situation where there's going to be cyanide.
Can you speak into the microphone so we can all hear?
Sorry. Yeah, there's not a huge risk of large volumes of, toxic plumes or anything like that. It's small containers. It's not, 1,000-gallon tanks or anything like that.
So,
yeah, and in that, so if there were any sort of runoff, we would burn everything, contain it, and clean it all up, and we wouldn't leave until it was all cleaned up. And that's and the EPA would be called, and they would oversee that type of response.
What if you didn't clean it up right? I mean, again, I want the worst case scenario. So you don't clean this up right, what happens?
you guys have been really good so far, and you did a really good job at the beginning, okay? Don't ruin it. You played your case really good at the beginning, and everybody was paying attention. Don't screw it up. You're on good ground. Continue.
If those materials got into the ground or the dirt, the flammable materials, it's like gasoline. Spilling gasoline, the corrosive materials, it's gonna stay there. I mean, it could leak into the groundwater, I guess, but again, if it was on the road, there would be a response, and it would be overseen by first responders. And again, if there's a hazmat spill on the roads, we're required to notify the state agency to oversee that.
And how much is on a truck? How many gallons would, say, a full truckload be of this stuff?
I'm not even sure. Do you know that answer, Rich?
Yeah. In terms of gallons, I'm not sure. I probably confused the situation. When you're referring to how many gallons, are you referring to the infectious waste, or I'm trying to get an idea. What am I doing?
Just to clarify, because what I want him to talk about is there's volume, but it's not 55-gallon drums of liquid. I mean, the important thing is that they take in a lot of plastics that has come into contact with hazardous materials. So the amount of hazardous materials are very, very small, perhaps, but there is a large volume because you've got all the plastics associated with it. So I think if you could speak to that.
Sure. Can you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, I'm going to ask a different question. So what we heard is Flint, Michigan, Sterigenics, basically the Camp Lejeune. Is there any possible way that this becomes something that you do wrong or something that I want to commit wrong with something that you have at your property? I can commit that kind of problem for people, a widespread problem for people.
No.
What can I do? I mean, what is the worst case scenario? I don't know why this is such a hard question to answer.
Well, I don't know what the
I'm not
worst case
gonna do it.
scenario is. We've got a drum, we've got trucks with drums on them,
Okay,
and we've got drums with infectious waste.
okay.
We handle it, we containerize it, and we take all of the precautions necessary to prevent these things from happening. And we have.
I'm good. Looking to my right.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Eventually, we're going to have to make a decision about this tonight, but before we get there, there was discussion about amending the conditions to include something to define processing so that it can be, processing would be defined as only transferring material from one truck to another. Mr. Ferrolo, I noticed you were very active when that came up.
And what I would say to that is Section C of the ordinance limits the operation of this business in accordance with the project description letter. Project description letter in great detail limits what they do there. It describes what they do there, and none of it talks about processing. It's limited to the collection from other businesses, moving it into trucks and transporting it out. So I don't think we need to add a condition to that effect because we have as an exhibit the project description letter. So I would suggest that that is not a necessary condition because the condition we draft will never be as detailed as what we already have. So I think you're covered there. If that's acceptable to Trustee Papantos and
Yes.
the rest of the board.
Another one of the condition amendments was that the special use generally goes with the land, but we could amend the conditions to go with the company. Is that possible?
What I would say to that is add a condition number 5 that reads, the special use is limited to the petitioner and shall expire if Triumverate Environmental, Inc. leaves the location set forth in the ordinance.
Or sells the business?
So this business continues under different ownership?
Yeah, because we then it just continues on and we have no idea what this new company, I would assume they would have to get licensed again by the IEPA and EPA, but then we have no idea who it is?
Well, the special use is being granted to Triumvirate and their business operation. So I would say to the extent Triumvirate, under whatever ownership is operating there, the special use can continue because they are a company that's been around for 30 years, heavily regulated. To the extent they leave and another company wants to go there to do the same thing, they'd have to start over.
Okay, all right, I'm fine. I would like to see that in.
So the condition, as I originally read it.
I'd pull the board if we understand that. Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Kruger?
Yep.
Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito? Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. We're getting there. Any other concerns or comments? If there are no other concerns or comments, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Papantos.
With the additional condition.
With the conditions as outlined by council. Clerk Brady, roll call.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
No.
Trustee Lang?
No.
President Horker?
I'm also a no. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Nice job. Ladies and gentlemen, also nice job.
Right? I just wanted to understand. If I would have been.
We have a meeting we're still conducting. Thank you.
Aye.
I understood.
Clerk Brady, C. Isn't it C?
Yeah, we're on,
C.
yes, we're on C. 13C, resolution awarding a restaurant and retail build-out assistance grant to Cinergy Entertainment at 401 West Dundee Road.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Ainsworth. I was waiting for the petitioner.
Thank you, President Horker. As mentioned, this is a restaurant retail build-out grant for the former CMX space that's now occupied by Cinergy. They moved in July. It's 40,000 square foot dine-in cinema. We're excited they're here. They have asked for a retail build-out grant of $50,000 as their signage is over $115,000. The applicant slash general manager is here tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, right, left?
Are there hazardous waste in the?
Yeah. What's the worst case scenario that could happen at that?
Yeah.
Right.
See, I made
He
you
was
laugh.
too much popcorn.
If the sign
Your
falls.
question was not right,
What?
the way you phrased your question.
What was it supposed to be?
I choke on
I'll
a
talk to
sprint.
you later. Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Approved, Trustee Rufato, second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Okay, hold on. Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Congratulations. It's looking good over there.
13D, discussion regarding major site plans and appearance concept review, Korean Cultural Center of Chicago at 9600 Capitol Drive.
Mr. Crotty.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just to remind the board that when we have these concept reviews, this current request is for a non-binding approval of the proposed major site plan redevelopment. The feedback by the board will be used by the development team as a guide in the preparation of the formal development plan. The outcome of this evening shall not constitute a formal approval or denial of the application. The decision by the board tonight is non-binding and shall not prevent the applicant from moving forward with a formal application. And with that, I think Director Clicker is going to take it from here.
Thank you. The Korean Cultural Center of Chicago, or the KCCOC, is proposing to construct a new single-story, 8,700 square foot special event venue building. This does require that it comes before us for a concept review and then to the Plan Commission also for a concept review before it goes for formal approvals. The KCCOC came before the village board in February of 2022 with a similar concept, but at that point the proposed it was on raising the roof of an existing building with an approximate 3,700 square foot vertical addition, as I mentioned, and 2,000 square foot addition to the building's entrance. They have decided that a purpose-built event space is better suiting their needs, and so they're before you tonight with this 8,700 square foot special event venue, as I said, which would raise one of the 5 buildings on the site and reconstruct with this facility. The petitioner is here to offer any additional information necessary and answer any questions. That's it for me.
Who's representing the Korean Cultural Center? Hello.
Good evening. My name is Kay Roh, Executive Director of Korean Cultural Center of Chicago. The Korean Cultural Center of Chicago is the leading Midwest destination where people celebrate and learn about and experience the Korean culture and heritage. So we have many programs, especially we have a visual arts program and performing arts program, culinary arts program, and community development programs. And we do, physically, we do have a museum, we do have a gallery and library, and we are in need of more space for performing arts. So Mr. Kim will explain more about technical stuff. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Minho Kim from PNK. PNK is a design build team selected by KCCOC. We have since late May, we have worked with KCCOC to fulfill their demands for new performing multi-performance hall for their facility. So what we are proposing there is, replacing one of the existing building with a little larger footprint. But we have checked the zoning, the map, and then zoning requirements there, and then we determined that our proposed footprint is within the, the zoning allowed it, setback lines and building separation requirements, et cetera, even with the, the SERB ordinance requirements there. And the one tricky part there is the Korean Cultural Center of Chicago's property is over the runway protection zoning and also transitional zoning. The building itself is not overlapped with the runway protection zoning, but the buildings are within the transition area that, so we are working with, FAA for that, regarding that matter. That is in the process. So now we are designing with the KCCOC to meet their requirements there, and we have provided some preliminary plans and then building images. I'm not sure whether those are ready for this meeting here. If you want, we can go through that quickly. So you can just keep going. So this is what I just explained here. I mean, the building what we are replacing there is again a little larger footprint there, single story building there, and then the facility will be accessed from the Hook Road to the Gangnam Drive, and then within the loop there. So the parking is surrounding the buildings there, and then people will access from the parking spaces to the center courtyard, and then get into the building, each of the building there. And the building service, we expect some, deliveries for the events there. So we will have a dedicated zoning on the left side of the plan that you are looking, and then there will be some food delivery from the right side as well. And the building form is very simple. It's a symmetrical form there. From the courtyard, you get into the pre-function space, and then from the pre-function space, you get into the main large multi-performance zone. And then this view is from the courtyard, and then toward the building, which is main building entrance. And then we are choosing sympathetic building materials with the existing building, so it's going to be more harmonized with the existing facilities. The building main facade will be the semi-glossy black bricks with this main entrance area here. We are trying to make as large as possible glass wall there, so visually and spatially connected from the courtyard, between the courtyard and the pre-function space. That's the design intent. Any questions?
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. How many events a month, week do you expect to have there?
Well, the Korean Cultural Center is pretty busy. Well, I don't know exact number of events, but especially the end of the year will be a very busy season. There are 2 to 3 gathering space there within the existing facilities, and each space can accommodate about 100 people. But they see a lot more larger events demands. That's why we are proposing this. This building is designed to support to have 400 people at maximum capacity.
Okay, that was my next question. So you're looking at up to 400 people, trying to figure out where you would park.
Right, that's a good question there. So, we don't really have space to expand our parking space, but when we calculate the parking, we are just about 25% short. And then, by zoning code, what I found there is, if we can get the 25% parking spaces from our neighbors, this should fulfill your requirements. And the National Louis University, and then also the nearby the Grace Church is willing to share their parking spaces for the large event for the Korean Cultural Center of Chicago.
I mean, this is a concept review, so conceptually, yes, I like it, but when it comes down to the parking and we get farther into this, you're going to have to make sure that there's places for these.
Understand. And then we already received their letter of interest in sharing their parking facility for prior proposal, which is similar, and which requires a similar number of parking spaces. So they are very good neighbors and they are very supportive for this facility.
Would your events be more in the evening or throughout the day or whatever?
Director,
You'd have to come to the mic, I'm sorry. Otherwise, it doesn't record.
It will be more evening and day also. And we have not just the event hall, we have multi-purpose room there. So it's not like 400 people every week. It's more like 200 people every week. So 400 people will be rare cases. Popular case will be around 200 people maximum.
Once you have a space for 400, they will come. Thank you.
And yeah, like he told, we already got the agreement from the National Louis and Promise Church and also Grace Church in our neighborhood. So National Louis University is very favored to us, so we are very happy. And it's kind of like a shared agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang, and then...
Thank you. No, I'm sorry. He was, President Horker was looking at me, but yeah, he said
Oh, I
you
said
first.
Trustee Lang, but then
Yeah,
you looked
right.
like you...
Yep.
We'll get it together. Trustee Lang?
Thank you. So very nice looking building for the performances and so on. Any plans in the future to maybe redesign some of the other buildings you have on the campus as well?
This is $3 million project, and we received 600,000 from National Endowment for Humanities, and we worked so many years so hard, and not near future. This is our like a dream project, and I'm sure that you will be proud of with a willing community, because it will be very cool, nice, and art performing halls.
Well, it's a great campus that you have anyway. I've been there for events in the past, and it's always been very nice. As for parking and so on, I know things can be worked out, but isn't there street parking, Mr. Clicker, in that area as well?
I believe there is.
Yeah, so I remember parking on the street at one time for an event at your location, and it was fine. Yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
So our purpose is we like to share our joy with you.
Any other questions or comments? I did notice that there was some concern listed about the facade, the exterior treatment of the sides and back of the building. They are very plain, and our code does require a little more interesting
Curb appeal.
facades. And that, again, that's not something that we're going to have to address here.
Correct.
I'm sure Mr. Clicker will bring it up. There is a note of it. It is code, but given your design and your culture and what you've done so far, I'm sure that you'll be able to see to that in a wonderful way as well. Where do we, if there's no other questions, where do we go from here, Mr. Crotty?
I guess first I'd want to ask Director Clicker, are there any zoning, special use, or site plan concerns that you want to raise right now?
Just as President Horker mentioned, the building isn't constructed entirely brick, and there are no windows or other architectural features on the side and rear of the facades of the building. And we'd like to explore looking with them on maybe some deviations in that, some false windows, changes in just really some changes of plane, anything that might break up that.
Different steps in the walls.
Correct.
Or brick variation.
So that's something we will definitely work with the petitioner on if the board would like us to do that. It's also recommended that an updated landscaping plan be proposed for the entire site, not just around the building, because the facility is getting to a point where the landscaping is getting a little dated. and that the site currently is underserved with fire hydrants, and that a hydrant should be added at the southwest corner of the building, just for extra protection.
That's part of the code, so. Nods from the right, nods from the left. What do we do next, Mr. Clicker, Mr. Crotty?
Okay, again, the question before the board, you're being asked to provide non-binding feedback to the developer. The developer may choose to move forward regardless of the board's feedback. So really, President Horker, it's just to find out if there's consensus to move forward.
Think they should move forward?
Yes.
Mr. Rufato, yes?
Yes.
Mr. Vogel?
Yes.
Kruger?
Yes.
Lang?
Yes.
Papantos?
Yes.
Vito?
Yes.
I am, of course, a yes. So, good luck, can't wait to see it.
Official communications.
Official communications. You said that.
I did.
I pay attention.
I heard.
Mr. Lang, what do you got?
Don't bring up too many property maintenance issues, but the Von Bank looks, light poles look pretty rusty right now. And I don't know if they're addressing anything out there in that entire site in general.
Actually, Community Development has noticed that as well, and we've actually recently had a conversation with the property owner for not only the Devon Bank, but the Weston and all the outlets out there, because it's all a common light. And they are requesting through their land office back in New York that they get permission to replace all the lights. That we're also working them on the condition of the parking lots as well.
Okay. And one other thing, it was such a nice gesture that they put in the wind turbines that worked for about a year and now are probably rusted shut. What's the future with those?
I don't know off the top right now. I can inquire into it, but I believe their intent is really they've just kind of become artistic.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. It's a tribute to green energy. Mr. Vogel, you had something?
Yes, just a reminder to the residents that this Saturday is the annual community breakfast. Takes place at the Dundee Road Fire Station on Saturday, again from 8 to 10:30 a.m. It's a free breakfast, but admission, we're asking that you donate a canned good to the local food pantries. And in lieu of that, if you want cash, there will be a cash box there, and donations will be accepted that way. You will be served by, well, first of all, the trustees and the village president will be cooking. And we will also be serving the food, so pancake, sausage, orange juice, coffee, drinks, fresh fruit, and some sweets. So hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Anyone else? Staff, last chance. That brings us to the bills for August 11th till September 14th of 2021. I need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yep.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we do have an executive session this evening. It is for the purposes of review of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, and pending probable and/or imminent litigation. We hit them all. So, that being the case, I need a motion to recess into executive session and to adjourn the regular meeting. Keep in mind, we will not be coming back into open session this evening. So, the motion to recess into executive session and adjourn the regular meeting.
So
Motion, Trustee Lang, second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, it is 8:20. I'd like to start by 8:25. Recess.